Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. I'm excited about this show. I want to welcome in my guest, Embrik Eyles. He's with WVUM, and he hosts his own podcast, Head First Sports. So definitely check him out there. Embrik, what's going on?
Hey, happy to be here, Chris. Excited to talk some Canes baseball. It's been a pretty good season so far.
Sure. And let's just get right into it. I want to talk about the rotation. We're going to talk about some lineup changes, maybe Palmquist, some hot bats coming up. Just to recap real quick, just where Miami's at. They moved to 17-8. They won their sixth straight game, beat FIU, have a big series against Pittsburgh coming up, 8-1 in their last nine, which I felt like that 9 game stretch, I felt like they had to go at least 7-2, 8-1. So they did that. So that's great to see. So Embrick, let's go with the rotation. Gino DiMare mentioned after the game, Alejandro Rosario is scheduled to make this next start. I think that's great news. He had the right oblique strain for a right-handed pitcher. That's that backside. So he had that 30-pitch bullpen on Tuesday. It went well. What are you hoping, or what would you like to see from Alejandro on Friday night?
Yeah, I think with Alejandro, he's probably been the most consistent pitcher for this Miami staff the entire season. The ERA really doesn't tell the story. If you take out that one bad start against FSU, he has the third best ERA in all of the ACC among all the pitchers. So that one bad start kind of inflated the stats, but he's been pitching really well. He has an electric fastball, a wipeout slider, and I think you're just looking for him to get out there and give you some length and some innings because you've had the bullpen having to go a little further than you would like at times because you don't get the length out of some of the starters that you would like. But I think I'd just like to see Alejandro go out there against a Pittsburgh lineup that's pretty good, but not one that's going to be super challenging for him. So I would just hope that he can go out there and do his thing and continue some of the momentum he was working on against some of the starts like Virginia Tech. So he's had a pretty good season. And I think to, go out there and give us length like he did against Virginia is just going to be a key.
And you mentioned it, he really has been essentially lights out up until that Florida State series, and then all of a sudden the ERA goes over 4, and you kind of, it almost feels like you look at him a little differently. But that's a great stat about, take that one out. And another thing with the rotation, definitely big news. Jake Garland was unavailable to make his midweek start there against FIU, and I asked Gino about that, and I felt like if there was anything more he could comment on, you guys can read between the lines of maybe why he wouldn't be unavailable. But basically, just said he's hopeful that he'll be available this weekend, but he didn't go there, so it was a bullpen day there. But the plan is Medeiros again on Saturday, Victor Medeiros on Saturday, and then they're going to stick with Jordan Doubly on Sunday. And I think what they're doing, and it was great to see Daniel Fetterman pitch the way he did, and I think they really like him with that length. They don't have a lot of length in the bullpen, but look, if Rosario's not able to go, if you feel some discomfort again, they could just plug Fetterman in the way they did before, or maybe another starter doesn't pitch very well. They have Fetterman right there, ready to go. What do you think the impact is, or the importance of Fetterman at this point? Rotation coming out of the bullpen, just with what he's able to give the team right now.
Yeah, I think Daniel Fetterman, it's really been a tale of, two halves of the season. The first half was really not good getting into that starting role to begin with. But over the last couple of weeks, he came out of the bullpen against UVA and with absolutely lights out, helping finish off that win with Jordan Doubly's first career start, and then comes out and pitches really, really well his last start. And I think the thing with Fetterman is there was times earlier in the season where he lacked command and would get himself into bad counts, 3-0 counts, 2-0 counts, and would have to throw, balls to get over the middle of the plate. And then he would make a pitch down the middle and then they hit it out of the park. And sometimes also he would just, you'd watch him pitch and you'd be like, why are you throwing a fastball? You only throw 92. Why are you throwing it down the middle of the plate when you have a, lights out changeup, which we saw him working with really, really well in his last start. So I think for him, it's really just continuing to get ahead against hitters because that was a problem earlier in the season. And also, just continuing to get that weak contact with that changeup because he does have nasty stuff. And I think he's starting to learn that, I don't need to overpower guys or try to overpower guys with a fastball that's not as overpowering like a guy like Alejandro. So I think he's going to be really important. And even if Alejandro comes back and you slide Fetterman into the bullpen and maybe he can be that guy like he was against UVA. I was talking about that earlier before we saw that Alejandro was going to go into, who's going to be injured. And I was going to talk about it on my show the other week that, maybe we have this Doubly Fetterman combination on Sunday. That's something that Miami can go to. But with only a few guys in the bullpen that you're trusted with, if you can get him back in there with, Wanger being out for the next couple of weeks, that middle of the bullpen is going to be filthy and something that Miami's really going to turn from a weakness to a strength, I would say.
And I want to jump right into the bullpen because you bring it up here, and I feel like it's very interesting the way that things are working out right now with the bullpen. And as you mentioned, a guy like Ben Wangers who's out for a bit. Gates was lost for the season. I know they really like Gates going into this year. And I think, just real quick with Dubberly, I've been impressed with Dubberly, a little bit surprised that, he's really stepped in and thrown zeros. I mean, he pitches to contact. That's what we hear quite a bit, but I think he had 7 strikeouts last time. So it's good that he's pitching well. And if he's able to give him that 4 or 5 inning output there on Sunday, that'd be great. So we'll see how he progresses. Okay. Carson Palmquist has been certainly lights out. Gino DeMaria said he's as good as anyone that he's ever seen at Miami. I tend to agree. I felt like I've seen a lot of great closers come through here. My my question is, or I want to talk about, and it's not to really brush off with what Carson's done, but are you concerned at all about the rest of the bullpen? Carson's been going a lot of 2 innings. He's gone over two at sometimes. I guess my question is because of how a series, or if we start looking ahead to regionals, are you going to go Carson a couple innings each day to get through a regional? Is that something that they can sustain, or do you think they've got some other guys, or just kind of your thoughts on with where the bullpen is right now?
Yeah, I mean, let's start off just talking about Carson Palmquist because, like you said, he's been the best pitcher for this Miami staff. I think one thing, like you said, he's gone multiple innings in 8 of 11 appearances, but some of the just other gaudy stats, he's averaging 15.6 Ks per nine and has struck out 4 or more in 6 of 11 appearances. So the guy's just electric and totally on his game. But I would like to see the bullpen kind of solidify and not make him go, trying to get 7 outs. We've seen him been doing that recently. Anthony Arguelles has been struggling at times so far this season, but his last 2 outings have been pretty good. Hasn't allowed a run, has pitched, 3 innings and only struggled with command in one of those. So Arguelles looks like he's starting to get things going. And one thing that he was struggling with earlier on this season was inherited runners. And he's been doing a much better job recently of stranding those guys. Then you have a guy like Jake Smith comes out and strikes out a lot of guys. So it's, it's going to be definitely a concern, I would say, but because it's not solidified quite yet. But until that's solidified, I think you can't keep asking Carson Palmquist to be going a lot of innings because he's going to get taxed. And even though he can strike out so many guys, it's something that's going to have to be fixed. But I think when Ben Wanger comes back, it's going to be much better because you'll have a guy who's a bridge who maybe you don't ask Arguelles to go 2 innings. Maybe you ask him to come in one and get situational outs and you go to Wanger and then go to Palmquist and that's set.
I think it'll be interesting, and it's tough to say what kind of scenario would pop up on a weekend, but it would be great. I think it'd be great just kind of looking ahead to the future by, if there's a way to put some of these guys in some high leverage situations. I know it's difficult because you don't want to throw a game away, obviously. And with the way things have gone through the first half of the season, they didn't have they couldn't afford to do that. So I understand Gino's playing in the moment, playing in the game. I thought the other day when they put up some runs yet there in the 8th inning where they had the big lead and they kept Carson in. I thought that would have been an opportunity to take him out a little bit, let somebody else finish the game, not a save opportunity for that person. But it's going to be very interesting because, again, it's playing in the moment or kind of looking ahead to the future about really trusting these guys and giving them opportunities. So, Embrik, let's get to the lineup. It looks like it's settling in. However, I'm just wondering if there's anything in the lineup that maybe you would see that you would either do differently or would like to see, or maybe even something that could change or that you'd like to see just to make it a little bit better, or any kind of improvements you think there.
Yeah, so with the lineup, I really like the lineup that we had on Sunday against Duke. I think the only thing that I would change is we're going to get to it a little bit later, but Gabe Rivera has just been absolutely mashing. So I think the only thing I would like to see is changing, him and Raymond Gill, putting Rivera after Terrell, then go Patelli and Gill, because I don't think you really want to put Patelli as your like quote unquote second leadoff guy in that role. So I think I would like to see that would be the only switch because the lineup's really been starting to get going. And I think the 1 through 6 guys have really solidified their spots. Jordan Lala has always been the leadoff guy since he's been here. Anthony Villar has had some really good hot streaks. Yohandy Morales has been the most consistent and best hitter for this Miami team all season. The Del Castillo brothers, I don't think we can say enough about how good the two of them have been and how much they've meant to this Miami lineup this entire season. And Alex Terrell finally starting to figure things out and get things going. But I think that's really the only switch I would do. And after Tony Jenkins was struggling and Damari kept giving him some chances, there was really nothing he could do, and keep sending a guy out there is not going to produce because this team has a lot of talent and a lot of guys who can hit in the middle of this order and even hit down lower. A guy like Gabe Rivera, maybe on another team, isn't hitting in the 7 spot and maybe he's hitting in your 4 or 5 spot. So I think the change was needed after Tony Jenkins just continued to struggle because there's too much talent. But overall, I've really liked how they've played in the last 8 or 10 games.
Sure. And the thing with the lineup with Gabe Rivera, look, he leads the team going into yesterday, led the team in batting average, slugging percent OPS, and he was batting eighth most days. He batted ninth the other day. Personally, I would move him much higher up in the lineup. I'd put him right in the middle. Honestly, here's what I'm thinking, Embrik. I'm a little concerned, and I know there's not a lot of discussion about it, but I'm a little concerned with Jordan Lawler leading off, then Villar second, and Christian Del Castillo fifth. Those three guys in the top five, I'm a little concerned with that moving forward. Once you start getting into these higher profile series, not till I think in May, once you got Georgia Tech, Louisville, and then obviously with the ACC tournament, I'm just worried that they're not going to be able to get that production that they're looking for with those three in the top five. So I honestly think they should, actually look into moving that around and, getting Terrell up there. I know Terrell's really struggled against left-handed hitting around 150 last time I checked against lefties, but he's got to get going. And then I would put Rivera up there, and certainly, Raymond Gill, although he's had better at bats, I just think Gabe Rivera is producing more. And I think that's an easy switch if Gino wants to keep it the same, not make drastic changes, but just definitely flip that. Even though Raymond's been proven over his career, but I just think that Gabe Rivera switch, he's just hitting too well. And I understand that maybe you don't think it's going to sustain, but look, this is a guy that's hit. He's hit well in his career. He had over 800 OPS in his career coming into the season, and he's still, hitting home runs at a good rate. He's actually getting on base, whether it's singles. He had one the other day. I mean, he's getting hit by pitches. I think he's doing everything that he needs to do, and I definitely think that they need that production, especially that right-handed bat. Another move maybe to think about, I'd actually move Morales up to that 2 spot, give you a little bit more power and kind of move the guys up. Adrian to that 3. There's a lot to move, a lot to think about. Baseball's great in that you can think like this. I don't see them changing, but I think they like what they have, and it's good to see Patelli get some at bats where he's productive over 370 his last 6 games. Okay, Embrik, Adrian Del Castillo. A lot with this lineup banks on the production of the better players. Adrian kind of struggling. I don't know if struggling or slowed, however you want to look at it, but he picked it up, got National Player of the Week last week. What are you seeing from Adrian and just the importance of him in this lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone would consensusly say that he is the best bat and best talent in the middle of this order. Maybe he's not hitting like that, but he's the guy that has been the key for this Miami order for the last couple of years. And he started off the season not as hot and not like he did as usual. But as of late, he's been really picking it up, like you said, National Player of the Week. And he's just really the key to making this Miami lineup one that is one to be, messed with and one to be kind of scared of, because he's got everything you can ask for. He's got speed. He's got, he can get balls into the gaps. He can hit home runs. He can get RBIs. He's just, when pitchers face him, he's the guy that you don't want to face in this Miami order. So getting him going in a spot that, the 4 spot or the 5 spot is something that you're really going to need to do, because if the top of the order starts to get on base and at a little bit more of a higher clip, then he's going to be the guy that we're just going to continue to see mashing. And it's been really nice to see him getting, better over the course of, the last couple of weeks. Started out the season batting 270, 280. Now he's up to the mid 300. So I think he's just the key to this Miami order going forward, just because he's not like Terrell's the guy that you look to. Okay, Terrell, I need you to go hit me a home run. Adrian's a contact guy who can also hit home runs. So he's just that all around polished, finished bat that really drives this order.
What's your take on Yo-Yo? He had home run last, against FIU, 7th of the season, leads the team, freshman. I know he's talented coming in. And, Yo-Yo, if you got to watch that highlight on that home run if you guys haven't seen it, but definitely low ball right there. And that's one of the things that Gino said earlier in the season. It's a strength of his, but also some that he can hit pitches outside the zone. But also it's something that he just has to make sure he's monitoring in terms of not chasing too many pitches. But for him to hit that home run, and I asked him after the game about it, and he said, look, I told Lopes it was going to be a changeup. I was going to hit a home run. It's exactly what happened. What impresses you with Yo-Yo and just kind of the season he's having right now?
I think everything that Yohandy Morales has done so far this season has been impressive at the plate. I mean, he's got power, he's got contact. He's just been all around a disciplined hitter. And he's just had the most power in this Miami order and has been consistent from the get-go. He had a little bit of a slump in the middle of the season for, maybe 4 or 5 games, but every time Yohandy Morales comes up to bat with runners in scoring position, you think that he's going to find a way to get them home. And it's been impressive to see the kind of power that he's had. I think you and I both knew that he had power, but like you mentioned, that home run last night, he goes down and gets it. It's like a major league type of hit there, going down and getting something and then putting it in left field. But I think it's just really impressive that a guy who's only in his, second year, he played a little bit last year and then COVID hit, and he's finally come back and with the baseball season. But he's just been impressive to watch. And I think you have the utmost confidence with him at the plate when you need him to get a hit, because he's been leading this team in almost all statistical categories. And he's just another key to this order that was someone you thought was going to produce, but I don't know that people thought that, like, okay, he's going to be the most consistent hitter. I think people thought that was going to be, Adrian Del Castillo.
So Miami, big series against Pittsburgh. And if you follow the ACC, a lot of teams have been in and out of the top 25 all season long. Pitt had a good start to the season. They're ranked 24th right now in the D1 baseball poll, Miami 18th. So you've got that top 25 matchup. Pitt's actually dropped 5 of their last 7. They're 3-5 at home. So they're, scuffling just a little bit. However, I think it's a big series for Miami. They have actually inched closer. They're only a half game out of first place behind Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech going into this series. So they're third. Pitt's 9-9, right behind them. What do you think is key for Miami this weekend? And like I said, they're right there. I felt like they've been chasing that top spot for a long time once they started scuffling. But what do you think are the keys this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good series between these two teams. One thing that I think bodes well for Miami is all of these starters for Pitt are going to be righties. I think the Miami can't hit lefties narrative is a little overblown in a sense, but it's always helpful when you have a lefty heavy lineup. So I think the pitching is going to be something that Miami's going to be able to hit. But I think some of the keys is just going to be continuing to get some length and development out of those starting pitchers. I mean, Daniel Fetterman, he's coming off of 2 good appearances. Maybe he goes back into the bullpen, or maybe if Rosario, like you said, can't go, then he's going to have to make that start on Friday. So, Rosario getting back and putting together a good start against a good team. I mean, Pitt's got some guys who can get on base, got some guys with some power. So I think the pitching is going to be key. I mean, one thing that I'd really like to see is Victor Medeiros find a way to get past, in that 5th inning, because that's really been his kryptonite so far this season. I think his ERA after after the 4th inning is like 23, which is insane to think about, because he's been pitching lights out for a lot so far this season. And like you said, there's not a lot of length in this bullpen. So if Medeiros can only go 4, then you're going to have to, piece things together. So I think getting the length out of your starting pitchers and continuing just to hit how they've been hitting, because the hitting has been really, really good these last couple of weeks, and taking advantage on, Sunday, because the Sunday starter for Pitt is not one of the better pitchers, but it's going to be a good matchup because Pitt's a solid team with, decent pitchers. But I think one thing that Miami's going to have to do also is Pitt really doesn't have a bullpen outside of their closer. It's been really a struggle so far for them this season. So maybe getting those starters to, get them into deeper counts and get Miami to get them out of the game earlier. And then that's going to be something that can kind of open the floodgates and open the scoring for them.
And I think one thing that stands out to me with Miami in these ACC series, I think it's getting inflated with their scoring, but a lot of that's coming in the midweek games. I know Miami's inching up there, but they're averaging 4.7 runs a game in the ACC, which, just ACC games, which ranks 11th in the conference. They've actually done well. They're moving up in pitching, 6th in ERA, but just that hitting, I like to see that continue to improve on the weekends. I think it's very important against quality opponents like that, 9th in home runs, 9th in batting average right now. Just I'd like to see that improve. And Pitt's kind of similar there, but like you said, their pitching's a little bit down. I think their ERAs are over 5 right now going into this series. So it'll be very interesting. I'd like to see Miami, pick up the bats. Obviously, you're looking for those extra base hits that kind of went away from them a little bit last weekend, but definitely a pivotal series because, like I said, they've got an opportunity to move into first place. They've been chasing for so long. So we'll see how that goes. Embrik, before I get you out of here, I want to ask you a baseball question. I want to know your favorite baseball player of all time, either growing up right now, current, past player. Just who's your favorite player?
That's a hard one. So I grew up a Washington Nationals fan. I'm from the DC area. So I've been a fan of them since I moved there in 2010. So I've been through all the heartache and everything. And that World Series was probably one of the best moments of my life. I'd say probably my favorite position player right now has got to be Juan Soto. He's just an absolute beast and can do everything you ask for. But I think my favorite player that I personally watched would be Max Scherzer. He's just such a competitor. He goes out every start, no matter if it's game 1 against Atlanta or game 62 against the Seattle Mariners, and just competes. And he's just got that competitive fire. He's been around our organization for 7 or 8 years, and he carried us to that World Series. So I would say Max Scherzer, just because he's got everything you want in a baseball player. I know he's on the second half of his career, and things may be looking to fall apart a little bit after that first start, but Max Scherzer is my guy.
Oh, Max is great. So I also, in addition to covering I cover the Marlins at home. I have for years in the past, different media outlets, but Max is great. Every time the Marlins face the Nationals, when Max pitches, I always get excited to watch that. And I always feel like I'm always on edge. And the fact that it could be a no-hitter, he's just that guy that can have one of those dominant performances anytime he steps foot on the field. And after the game, he's great to talk to. Like, even if he doesn't perform well, he's very analytical, and his responses I always enjoy when he comes up. So that's great to hear. My favorite player, I've talked about it before. Growing up, Bo Jackson was my guy. I'm a big Royals fan. Grew up in the heyday with Bo, so certainly that's my favorite player. And there's been a lot of good players since then. And like you, I've actually been able to experience a World Series championship in recent years from the team that I enjoy the most. But Embrik, I appreciate you jumping on. There's a ton to talk about, and enjoy your passion for the Hurricanes baseball. And definitely, like I said, everybody check him out on his podcast and for him calling the game. So Embrik, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Chris.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye.